In this episode, I'm going to feature this Anthurium vittarifolium. Anthurium vittarifolium or vittarifolium or vittarifolium. I really don't know how to pronounce this. It's really a mouthful. So to keep it simple, I should just call it Miss Vita in this video. So this is commonly known as a pendant Anthurium because of how the leaves are hanging down, just like the Pelidifolium as well as the Ringerii, which has a very cute curly inflorescence. So this Anthurium is native to the South American countries, tropical countries like Brazil, Colombia and Peru. So this will tell you a little bit of their need requirements. I bought this Anthurium almost 2 years back, I think in November 2020, when they are just mere seedlings, really small. I shall put a photo up here, you can take a look. I bought 2 badges and I think each of them cost me about $6, so it's really cheap. The seedlings were growing in moss for the first few months. In fact, it was pretty slow growing for the first few months until it reached a critical point when it started giving longer leaves, and that is when I potted them up in proper potting medium with very well draining aeroid mix. So I repotted them in 2 terracotta pots, very small terracotta pots, and to be honest, I think I've neglected them over the next few months. They dry out really fast because of the loose aeroid mix as well as the terracotta pot, and it didn't help that, you know, I was underwatering them, and I at one point placed them in the balcony, which gets a lot of direct sun. So they struggled for a while, but they are really resilient. They actually bounce back. So once I brought them indoors, they got much better and they improved tremendously and started giving me much nicer and longer leaves. So once they started growing bigger, I repotted them again, this time into this clear plastic pot with a lot of cutouts, so it is very well draining. My idea is to water this more frequently because this drains really fast, so I don't have to worry about root rot. Okay, let me remove this and place this on top of the planter so you can appreciate how nice the leaves are trailing. And so far this is the most perfect looking one. So there's this very prominent mid-rib that goes all the way down right in the middle of the leaf. And yeah, the previous longest leaf was this. This is pretty long as well. But it's, as you can see, this is really skinny compared to the latest one. I think this one is about, I would say, 40 cm. Okay, but I always get this very awkward and weird looking leaves like this one. I think they have not unfurled properly. Yeah, look at this. Very weird shapes. And I think it's also a little bit dry. This one as well looks really curled up. I have a few theories. I think mainly it should be due to the lack of proper humidity when it was growing out. Either that or it could be due to underwatering. Yeah, so my bad. Do let me know if you have the same issues with this Anthurium as well. Yeah, and there's this new growth that is coming out. When it comes to lighting, I think it doesn't really require a lot of bright light. In fact, when I put it under very bright light, some of the leaves turn yellow. So yeah, bright indirect is fine, but I think it will do okay with medium bright light as well. Yeah, definitely no direct sunlight. The leaves will not like it. For watering, like I mentioned, I will try to water this more frequently. since it's in this very loose potting medium as well as this very well draining pot. Currently I'm watering this every 5 days and it seems to be doing well. Sometimes I'll let the water sit in the planter for a little while for it to take up all the water that it needs. I got to ensure that I don't underwater this again, and I hope you give me nicer and fresher looking leaves like this one and not these. When it comes to humidity, I think some of you know that my humidity levels here is very erratic. It can be as high as 70% or as low as 32%, 35%. It's crazy. So I don't have the best humidity here. For your information, I've moved to a new place, but the humidity levels here have not improved, still the same. So what I do is I do top dress this Anthurium with sphagnum moss, hopefully to seal in some humidity for the roots. I think it will appreciate it. So of course, it'll be better if you can provide a little bit better humidity, but this Anthurium is not fussy compared to its velvety leaves cousins, like those Regal or even Crystallinum. They tend to need a little bit more humidity. If not, all their leaves will turn crispy around the edges. I'm sure you've seen a lot of those. If you don't give it, they literally need to live in a greenhouse, I would say. So not for this, except for all these curly leaves, they do take regular humidity well. And I'll mix this moss very lightly every day, almost every day. Okay, I don't really have any pest issues. I don't see any mini bugs or scale or anything. So far only this leaf, which I think has some kind of bacteria or fungal infection. I'm not sure, or it could just be a burn from accidental sun hitting the leaf. But it looks like some kind of infection, or maybe it could be due to watering issues. Other than that, I don't see any pests on this plant. I know for some velvety Anthuriums, those heart-shaped ones, you can get thrips on them. I know I got thrips on my Anthurium clarinervian, so those are very prone to thrips. But not for this one. I don't really see any. But it's good practice if you just wipe down the leaves every now and then. At the same time, you can also inspect the leaves for any pests. For potting medium, like I mentioned, I use a very well draining aeroid mix with a lot of bark and perlite, as well as some cocoa chips. I think there's some pumice in here as well. Yeah, and Thing is doing a good job in keeping this pot really well draining. And it helps that I'm using this very well draining pot. So this Anthurium is an epiphyte, so meaning it has roots that are exposed to the air as it clambers up a tree in search of more light. So you can keep the roots moist, but you don't allow it to sit in a pool of water because the roots are really chunky. For fertilizing, nothing special, as most of my plants I'll use a slow release fertilizer or this brand called Nutricoat. And also occasionally I will use liquid fertilizer, chemical fertilizer in the water as I water them very weakly, a very weak dosage every time I water this. I've not propagated this before, but I would love to do so. This can be propagated by stem cutting or by division. Just make sure you got a viable node in each of the cuttings. And lately I've been thinking of pollinating this Anthurium. I really like the idea, but I know it's still very premature. Hopefully this Anthurium can grow into a more mature specimen and give me some inflorescence and experiment in pollinating this beautiful plant. So I had 2 pots of this Miss Vita, but before I moved, I actually sold one of them and I kept this bigger one for myself. So if you want a strappy leaf Anthurium that is affordable and easy to care for, this little Miss Vita is for you. Thank you for watching this episode of Plant Spotlight. So if you like contents like that, do consider subscribing to my channel. It doesn't cost you a cent. Meanwhile, I will see you again in my next video. Take care, be safe, and remember to show your plants some love.